shall we? The first tip for living a more peaceful life is the practice of non-attachment. Non-attachment. Now, this is not detachment, right? Detachment is, here's my watch, I'm detached from my watch, I'm getting rid of it, I'm giving it away. I'm not talking about detachment, I'm talking about non-attachment. And from this perspective, I'd like to offer you for consideration is that non-attachment implies a realization of impermanence, right? Maybe you've thought about this, maybe you haven't, but the reality is everything is, coming, growing, and going. Everything ultimately will decay. Nothing will last. And so the opposite of non-attachment being attachment is really fundamentally a delusional notion where we hold on to things. No, this can't change. It has to be this way. I need this. I want this. I've got this. This is mine, and it has to stay forever. So in some ways, attachment really is a form of ignorance, and therefore non-attachment is a form of wisdom. It is the recognition and the realization, and I certainly invite you to do more contemplation around impermanence. Contemplate impermanence on a more consistent basis. Recognize nothing will last. No criticism will last. No feeling will last. No success or failure will last. Nothing will last. And so really to secure peace in your life, you've got to practice non-attachment. It's the simple act of letting go. Letting go of your labels, your judgments, your concepts, letting go of your need for success or name or fame or wealth, prosperity. Rather just, I'm not saying to not have all those things. Again, that would be detachment. Have all the wealth in the world. Have, name and fame. None of that's, I'm not concerned about any of that. But the hankering after it, the needing to have it, the have to have it, the fear of not having it, all of those will contribute to a peaceless state of mind, right? So if you want to be peaceful, start to practice non-attachment. In fact, one of the recommendations I often give many of my clients, and I practice this myself regularly, which is when I go to bed at night, I practice dying. Now, that might sound quite morbid, but quite the contrary. Rather, it's just this simple idea that when we die, we can't take anything with us. I'm sure you'd agree, right? And so when I go to bed at night, I just practice dying. In other words, letting go of everything. Let go of that thought. Let go of that thought. Let go of that worry. Let go of that desire. Just keep letting go. That's the practice of non-attachment. And by all means, continue that on throughout the day, as in just letting your ego die, letting all notions of self just drop away, letting all attachments go. Again, I'm not saying detached. Don't detach from your family, but just let go of your attachment to your family being permanent. Let go of your attachment to your money being permanent. Nothing is permanent. So that's the first tip. The second tip I'd like to share with you in order to live more of a peaceful life would be, it sort of rolls into the second and third tip, in fact. And again, these are not easy practices, but if you want peace, I love this expression. It's like you just need to understand these three words, right? I want peace. Drop the I, which is ego, which is the second point. Drop the want, which is desire, which is my third point, and you'll be left with peace. So now what is the ego? The ego is a delusional notion of self. Ego is false beliefs, judgments, labels that we live by, notions, concepts. That here we are as these tiny little, I don't assume this is who we are, but apparently we're like these tiny little Homo sapiens on earth, and we're saying, I know, and you are, and he is, and that is, and we're always judging. He's good, and he's bad, and that's good energy, and that's bad energy. Right? It's all this I, this like ego is a delusional notion of self. Right? And so when we're judging others, we're compounding their illusion of themselves. When we judge ourselves, we're just compounding the illusion of ourselves. It doesn't matter. We'll never be who we're not. We always will be who we are. But this ego is what loves to notionify and conceptualize and declare, I am, right? And I've had clients just today tell me, I'm insecure, or I am restless, or I am full of desire. I am tired. Or I am exhausted. All of these I ams. And in one case I asked, well, how would you like me to address you? Would you rather I address you by the name given to your body at birth, or should I just call you exhausted? Or should I just call you tired? Should I just call you hungry? Right? So that dad joke, yeah, but it's actually some truth to it. It's what my children say, Dad, I'm hungry. I'm like, hi, hungry. How you going? Because you're not hungry. No, your body might be hungry, but you're not hungry. Right? And often we lock down, we have these conclusions which bind, they enslave the mind, they press upon the mind these conclusions of who we think we are. And so if we can just give them up, or at least question them in the start, like Socrates said, the thing that set him apart, that made him a wise man, is that he knew that he didn't know. He knew that he did not know who he was, and that every hypothesis and scientific explanation ultimately doesn't lead or isn't the absolute truth. There's some relative truth to it, but it's not absolute truth. And so maybe you could just start to let go of a few of your conclusions which bind or enslave the mind. Let go of the ego. Let the ego die on the cross, as they say. Cross the ego, to let the ego die on the cross. Again, nothing wrong with the ego, and I want to really emphasize this point. There's nothing wrong with the ego. It's only too much identification with the labels that we've given ourselves will ultimately cause in some demise or a feeling of peacelessness. You won't be peaceful because you're so attached to your identity. As it fades away, of course, it's going to create a disturbance in the mind. So that would be the second point, is to just do your best to notice all the labels, conditioned beliefs that your mind conjures up, and see if you can just drop them. I'm a big fan of the explanation, it is what it is, or it will be what it will be. Right? And most people are like, yeah, duh, what else could it be, right? But what else could it be? It could be whatever you choose to make it. It could be horrible, it could be wonderful, it could be good luck, it could be bad luck. And a final point on this, if you look at the universe, the known universe, right? What we know of the universe, we know that, there's ether, air, fire, water, earth, the five elements. We know that there's a solar system, a galaxy, maybe a universe and a multiverse, who knows? But nonetheless, tell me, of all the things in the universe that you know of, ether, air, fire, water, earth, all the things you know of, what's bad? What's bad? What's good? Shakespeare said, things are neither good or bad, it's thinking that makes it so. My teacher, a great guru, he used to say, things are neither good or bad, but in the beginning, it's helpful to see all as good. But my point with this ego, it's the ego that's labeling, notionifying, conceptualizing, this is good, this is bad. Now don't get me wrong, smoking 3 packets of cigarettes, I would consider bad, but I would say the cigarette is not bad. The cigarette's not bad. Smoking 3 packets of cigarettes may be bad. A knife isn't bad. Put it in the hands of a murderer, it might be bad. Put it in the hands of a doctor, it might be good. But the actual cigarette and the knife and everything else isn't either good or bad. And it's the ego that decides to bring the polarized notion to life. And so just keep working on catching the mind, the ego, labeling, notionifying, conceptualizing. One of the questions that I've been hammered with when I lived in India in ashrams for 3 years was, who is the I? Who is the I? Because I would say, hey, I believe in, and who is the I? I just got hammered with that question. It's a real conversational killer, right? Hey, Nat, good to see you. Thank you. It's a conversational killer to ask who is the I, right? But you'll hear it now in conversation if this is planted a seed for you. You hear everyone's going, I am, who is the I? And they'll often give the name given to their body at birth when you ask them that question. It's just the name given to the body at birth. It's like, Eckhart Tolle says, a rose is not a rose. Or as we all know, a criminal is not a criminal. A criminal's done something, maybe against the law, and we call them a criminal, but they're not a criminal. That's not who they are. So keep catching your mind, labeling, notionifying, conceptualizing, judging, and just see if you can nip it in the bud. Bring it back to it is what it is. I am that I am. It will be as it will be. And give up all the binding conclusions that surround that. And I guarantee that will help, that will contribute towards really living into a more peaceful life. So the third tip for living a peaceful life, and that is simply give up desire. Now you hear this a lot, and one of my mentors certainly would encourage ambition, and so do I. I encourage ambition. You might think, well, that contradicts itself, but it doesn't. There's nothing wrong with ambition. I would only say this. Having ambition or goals, right? It's not about achieving your goals. It's not about not achieving your goals. But when you look at it like this, and actually I was looking for my phone, I'm talking to it. Well, let me say this, like, what do you see here? What are these? Most people would say sunglasses, right? No, that's not sunglasses. You called it sunglasses. We've agreed that we call these things sunglasses. But really what this is earth. This is earth. Your house is earth. Your children are earth. When I say earth, I'm talking about the 5 elements: ether, air, fire, water, earth. You know, everything that we know of in this planet of ours is, let's just call earth, and everything is earth. And so you may achieve your goals, right? You may get that big house, you might get that job, that promotion, you know, you might take that holiday, you might hit that position, gain that name or fame, but all you're gaining is more earth, right? So again, we bring back to non-attachment. It's just more earth, and it's going to decay. There's no point being overly attached to it. It's not about achieving your goals. It's not about not achieving them. It's not about achieving them though. It's about having them, because in having them, you're giving yourself some purpose each day. Like, one of the greatest causes of mental illness today is a lack of meaning in life, a lack of purpose. So it's essential to have a reason to get out of bed, and that's goals. It's okay to be ambitious and to strive, but if you're hankering after achieving, if you're really desiring some result, then you're not going to be peaceful. You're going to be far from it. You're going to be lost in pieces, right? And so this is tricky. It's a tricky thing to grasp and understand, this idea of giving up desire. Giving up the desire for a particular outcome. It's tricky. Like I said, this is not easy. But when we recognize everything that we're desiring is made of the very same stuff, which is why the yogis have said for thousands of years that they treat wood and gold alike. A yogi treats wood and gold alike. Sees no difference. Both are made of the very same 5 elements. Maybe there's different elements in the elementary table, but ultimately it's really the same. And so giving up desire, not an easy thing, but if you can recognize that what you're seeking isn't the cause of your happiness. Like people say, if I have that house, I'll be happy. Or if I have that amount of money, I'll be happy. Or I have that position, I'll be happy. But no, it's not the things that make you happy. It's the mind, when it's free from desire or aversion, when it's free from I, the ego, that's happiness. It's an underlying state. I find it when I surf or when I snowboard, and I used to blame the snowboarding or the surfing for my happiness. But I've come to realize it's not the snowboarding or the surfing. It is a trigger that takes me into a place where I'm truly present and therefore happy. And so again, have your goals, have your ambitions, but having to have them, the desire, that need to achieve, maybe you could start to let that go and rather just have the goal as purpose to drive you, to get you moving, to motivate you, to excite you, right? But the realization that whatever you get, it's just more earth. It's just my way of managing my mind that helps me experience more peace. So I hope that helps you. 3 not so easy tips to experience a more peaceful life. 1, give up attachment, non-attachment. Be non-attached. Right? It's the realization of impermanence. 2, give up the ego, the sense of I, these delusional conceptual notions of self and everyone else. And 3, give up the desire. Give up the desire. I know it's such a tricky thing to identify. It's a bit of a paradox. Like, have the goal, but don't be desiring of achieving the goal. It's just giving up that hankering, that need, that attachment, the desire. Want. I want. Or I don't want. How can you ever be peaceful if that's what's going on? Right? So hope that helps. Leave your comments below. If you have any questions, please leave those for me. And I hope to see you again sometime soon.